This is Hinos' Sport, bringing you that heat and that fire. We keeping a foot on the what? On the next. We keeping a foot on the what? On the next. Now let's get on to it, man. Teofimo Lopez, the Super Duper Hype Job variation. Let me say it again. Teofimo Lopez, the Super Duper Hype Job variation. Here's the cold-hearted, here's the unadulterated, and here's the cutthroat two-teller fashion. It brings me back to Maya Angelou again. When a person shows you who they are the first time, believe them. Let me say it again. When a person shows you who they are the first time, believe them. And in this instance, we have to believe that once a super duper hype job, always a super duper hype job. Let me say it again. Once a super duper hype job, always a super duper hype job. Really, Teofimo Lopez? See, here's the cardinal rule that's associated in boxing. You could tell he's hot and bothered like grits by Hinos Sport and by Lomachenko. But then you can also tell even further that Loma and Hinos Sport is living rent and space free in his head and soaking up all the damn AC. Let me say it again. Loma and Hinos Sport is living rent and space free in his head and soaking up all the damn AC. You know why? Because why do you need to fixate your mouth to say, when I put on 8-inch gloves, I'm going to break his skull? Woo, that's about the most insecure and miserable stuff that someone would say. Let me say it again, because I have to say this in the super duper hype job variation. Let me fix my mouth to say this. You know, super duper hype jobs. Variations, you know, ultra fanboys with the ultra fanboy rhetoric. I told you, boxers, trainers, promoters alike, they can be ultra fanboys with the ultra fanboy rhetoric. You got to do their mouths like this. When I put on 8-inch gloves, I'm going to break Loma's skull. Let me say it again. When I put on 8-inch gloves, I'm going to break Loma's skull. Loma's sitting there laughing his ass off. He's like, damn, I'm living rent and space free in this dude's head. Once again, for the number 3 of confirmation, along with Hinos Sport, and soaking up all the damn AC that I got this dude out of character. Teofimo Lopez runs his mouth, but he doesn't overrun his mouth. Woo, what I said was so deep and profound. Like, let me let that marinate in the corpus callosum and in the cerebellum. Hear me? Hear me? Well, Teofimo Lopez runs his fucking rabbit ass mouth, but he doesn't run it overly. He doesn't overrun his mouth. This is what's happening when we see a movable object meets an unstoppable force. Let me say it again. This is what we see when we see a damn near movable object that meets an unstoppable force. The unstoppable force is Lomachenko in this equation and in this situation. Because alphas, they don't run their mouth. They get the job done on the day that they're supposed to get it done. The beta one is usually the one that's doing this. All bark and no bite. Let me say it again. All bark and no bite. And number 3, for the number of confirmation. All bark and no bite. That's what Teofimo Lopez is doing. He's doing all the barking, but he doesn't have any bite that's associated behind it. This is what we call Chihuahua type behavior. You already told the boxing world when you were faced with mental adversity, Dad, no more taller fighters. I think I'm going to quit boxing for social media. Let me say it again, because that needs to marinate in the corpus callosum and it needs to marinate in the cerebellum. It needs to marinate in the medulla oblongata. Dad, no more taller fighters. I think I'm going to quit boxing for social media. And now all of a sudden you went from that guy to a guy that's going to break Loma's skull with 8-inch gloves. That leaves Hinos Sport to say things that make you say, Let me say it again. Things that make you say, Here's the cold-hearted, here's the unadulterated, and here's the cutthroat two-teller fashion. When we look at Teofimo Lopez shows you by his body language, and he's also showing you by physical actions that he's taking, he's going to lose this fight. To first say that $1.2 million is not enough, to then turn around and then get the other $800,000 that Loma basically handed over to you like handout from his lottery, from basically his lottery purse. Then you turn around and delay the inevitable, which is the fact that you're going to get your ass whooped, which is the fact that this is the lion versus the dog parable of the instance of lions don't supper with dogs, they eat them. Let me say it again. Lions don't supper with dogs, they eat them. You did some film study with your dad, and you did not like what you saw. And you saw a guy who is a front foot, dominant, stalwart type of fighter. His back foot is shit, but you lack the boxing pedigree. You lack the wherewithal. You lack the ingenuity. You lack the boxing IQ to be able to keep him on the back foot all night and to expose his ass. You can't do that. You can't have him coming out looking like he's from a meatpack district. You lack that. And you just told Lomachenko once again what your fucking game plan was. And the prediction king strikes again. And the prediction king strikes again. That you're looking for the knockout. Then he knows the sport called this. He knows the sport called this thing 6 to 12 months in advance. Let me say it again. He knows the sport called this 6 to 12 months in advance because when he knows the sport is in seer mode, when he knows the sport was in Batman deduction mode, and I lock in on a fraud, I lock in on a super duper hype job variation, I lock in on a dude that I can see that's a quitter, I lock in on a dude that lacks the mental strength, that is mentally weak, he knows the sport can expose his ass. I've been told you guys they don't have no game plan. Because the efficient game plan was to work on your technical ability, work on your fundamentals so that you can work the body, so that you can get off with the damn head. Let me say it again. Work on your technical ability, work on your fundamental ability so that you can work the body, and then that way you can be off with the head because you have the power behind it. But what is power if you don't know how to use it? Woo! What I said was so deep and profound. I need to let that marinate in the corpus callosum and in the cerebellum. Hear me? Hear me? Wow. What is power if you don't know how to use it? That's Teofimo Lopez. This is what Andre Ward was talking about when he said, knockouts will not sustain you. Let me say it again. The great legend Andre Ward, unofficial era-filled fighter between Floyd Mayweather and Earl Spence. I have to say that again. An unofficial era-filled fighter between Floyd Mayweather and Earl Spence said, knockouts will not sustain you. When you get to the championship rounds of 7 rounds and up, how are you going to showcase to us that you have other gears? Like Meek Mill say, there's levels to this stuff. There's gears. How are you going to showcase this to us? He can't, because he doesn't have that. And him saying that I can't wait to put on 8-inch gloves so that I can break Loma's skull, you're telling us that the game plan is you're going to be impatient. And then here's the caveat of it, because look in the description column, because he knows the sport put it there for you. Teofimo Lopez tells you that he is impatient. He is admitting this. Not only are you telling Lomachenko what the game plan is, which is you're looking for the knockout, you're also telling Lomachenko that you're impatient. This is what super duper hype job variations. This is what frauds and quitters don't get. The more you run your freaking mouth, the more of an ass whipping you're going to find. Let me say it again. The more you run your freaking mouth, the more of an ass whipping you're going to find. That's the cold-hearted. That's the unadulterated, and that's the cutthroat true teller fashion. See, we have to recap Maya Angelou here. When a person shows you who they are, believe them. Let me say it again. When a person shows you who they are the first time, believe them. Once a super duper hype job, always a super duper hype job. Let me say it again. Once a super duper hype job, always a super duper hype job. Lomachenko's doing this. He's chopping at the bits, because not only did you tell him that the bullshit game plan, which is obvious for any casual at that level could see that, but those using the true boxing eye test could see, is you're looking for the knockout and you're going to be impatient on top of that. Do you not realize that's going to get you outboxed? Do you not realize that's going to get you a boxing clinic? Do you not realize that's going to get you embarrassed into what we call no mas? Lomachenko's using this shit as fuel on the fire. See, even Lomachenko's most ardent critics have to admit he's taking up a dangerous fight. It is a dangerous fight because he's dealing with a guy that's a puncher. See, he knows the sport could keep that same energy over here. I at least know that one thing that Teofimo has is a puncher's chance. Let me say that again. One thing that the super duper hype job variation has is a puncher's chance. But Loma's going to make sure that he evades the power so that he can expose your ass. That's the cold-hearted. That's the unadulterated, and that's the cutthroat true teller fashion. I keeps the foot on the what? On the next. I keeps the foot on the what? On the next. This is He Knows the Sport. Check it out.